Well, it is 12 o'clock on the eastern seaboard here in not hot Atlanta. It is 11 o'clock in the suburbs of Birmingham.
Birmingham Slam.
Birmingham Slam? What's the nickname for Birmingham? Is it Birmingham Slam?
Beham.
Beham?
Like the letter B and a picture of a ham. I'm not kidding. I have a pair of socks that look like that.
That's very much on brand. That's very much on brand.
Actually, that brand, get about this now, that brand was started by a guy who's a member of the church. Yeah. Shirts, stickers, socks, hats, Beham everywhere.
Well, today is a unique and special day for at least three reasons. Number one reason is this is the culmination, endpoint, finale, end times for Do the Work in its current capacity. Terry and I have talked about it off and on, and with my schedule next semester being even more compressed and packed with activity for at least the foreseeable future, we're shifting off of that. Second important thing for today that was a little unique is that we're starting a little late. And so if you're joining in with us or you're like, hey, where is everybody or whatever, we had some needs on Terry's side of the schedule to kind of move stuff around. And the third thing that makes today special is that Terry and I just yelled at each other because we love each other.
No, you yelled at me because you supposedly love me.
Well, you yelled back at me because you supposedly love me.
No, I yelled back at you because I don't love you anymore. That's why I yelled at you.
That's all right. No, you don't like me.
That's all right. I'm so glad we're at the end. Ecclesiastes 7:8 says the end of a matter is better than the beginning. Amen, Solomon. Amen. Can end this relationship.
Yeah. Let me.
I'm not going to do the work anymore.
Well, that is actually correct. That implies doing the work in advance of these conversations. That's what that implies.
Well, that's since we've never done the work. Let's be for real. We've never done the work.
And let me add this. If you jump into the live broadcast of this and you have been on the broadcast before, you can comment in the chat like always, or you can send us a message. And if you feel like gracing us with your visual preference, your actual what you look like, we may bring you in. If your name's Edwin Crozier, it's like a 50-50 chance. But the rest of us,
Crozier's not listening.
Yeah, he's still.
Crozier's either eating lunch or watching Lord of the Rings somewhere. That's what Crozier's doing right now.
Or he's eating lunch while watching Lord of the Rings, deciding whether he's going to respond to a comment I made somewhere, and how he's going to respond to it.
Yes, that is true as well.
We don't have as much of a structure. Remember, these are unscripted conversations about the work of evangelism. As they don't even
we have zero structure. That's the thing about today. We just went into this going, hey, let's just wrap this show up. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? He's like, the things. We're going to talk about all the things. What are the things, Phil? I don't know. We'll figure out when we get in there.
Yeah.
And then he started yelling at me.
So basically, just like every other relationship Terry has had in his life.
That is not true.
Anyway.
My kids are too scared to yell at me.
I don't know about that. I know your children. I feel like they might be willing to straighten some business out.
Only one, and she is a force to be reckoned with.
That is correct.
I already had to deal with her this morning, so that's just how it is.
Wait a minute. I think I did too.
Yeah, we both had to deal with her.
So I want to talk about a couple of things. I took a little bit of time from last week to this week to kind of browse through some of our early episodes. This isn't just going over the topics, but I wanted to highlight at least a couple of things from those experiences over the course of, it's been probably, since 2019, we started doing this. I've got a note from Terry in February of 2019 where we set up some questions to interview preachers at different times.
I think it's been almost a full 4 years. Like it's pretty.
We're close to that.
Well over 3.5. Yeah, I think we started because those questions about preachers was actually after we started doing the weekly broadcast. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And we did take a shift of focus in 2020 as we shifted to daily Bible studies to, at least on our part, encourage two things, which I wanted to definitely want to talk about today. Number one was we shifted our focus to have those studies to encourage our brethren at a time when in-person interaction was not as easy as it was before, but it also provided an outlet for Terry and I and others to connect with those who preach regularly. And as much time was invested in creating those studies on my end for the technical side and for structure and like logistics, the very best part of that was the relationships that were built in the middle of those conversations. Tara and I each got to meet people we had never met before from our various circles of friends and beyond. I think that's just something that we'll take a few minutes in the middle of these things to talk about that. But we do have a couple things that we'll mention at the front and at the end. We just agreed that, was it Monday, February the 6th? Is it the right day? Is it the 5th?
Yeah,
it's
the 6th.
The 6th. Monday, February the 6th. We are inviting anyone who wants to come join us Dutch at
Dutch
Petra to join us for lunch on that day.
Do the lunch
on that Monday before the lectures begin in earnest. So there's a little bit more flexibility. Petra is located in Temple Terrace. It's about 10 minutes from campus, plus or minus. And anyone who's watched these broadcasts who happens to be down in Florida is welcome to hang out with us at lunch. Enjoy. I'll say it this way: it is the best representation of shawarma / Middle Eastern cuisine you're going to find without traveling overseas to get it. And so it's excellent
Jared
food.
Saltz endorsed, correct?
It is correct. It is Mark Russell endorsed, Jared Saltz endorsed. I endorse it. See, look, Petra's already enticed Mark to come join. He's going to go right from the airport to lunch. So, Mark, as you might know, Petra lunch time frames go. You get there, you eat, and you stay there a lot afterwards. So your flight will be fine. No issue there. But that's February the 6th in Temple Terrace, Florida. If you're there, you can join us for Do the Lunch. We'll also, as the mood strikes us, pop back in to address things from time to time. We've talked about some other projects that we'll announce at a later juncture. Terry, I've talked a lot. It's your turn to talk about stuff. Things.
Terry's take on the public life of Mike Leach. Listen, we get sidetracked. Let me say this about Mike Leach. Like, there's nobody else like Mike Leach, man. The Pirate's going to be missed. I don't know if people know this about Mike Leach. Mike Leach used to read his Bible, King James Version, before the games. And when asked about that, he said it was a calming influence on his life. So there you go. There's my commentary on Mike Leach. No, you mentioned earlier about us getting to meet people. I've met people because of this broadcast I probably would have never met before. And there's some people we've gotten to know that I've not met face to face yet, but we feel like we know them. So from that standpoint, I really do appreciate the opportunity to spend the last almost 4 years. And of course, in 2020, we spent so much time together that feels like there was like 4 years additional because of how many shows we did. It was a blessing to do this. The biggest blessing for me is that it reconnected me and Phil. We had started reconnecting probably the year or so prior to this, going through some similar situations. But these weekly appointments where we don't just do the broadcast, but we spend time together will be missed. I'm sure there'll be some times where we're just like, hey, let's hop on and talk that you all won't get to participate in, because we'll probably crave that. And I really appreciate Phil and our kids being such good friends. Our families become closer through all this. And I just think that's really a great blessing for this. So, it says the end of a thing is better than the beginning. And I understand that. And there's a part of this where not having to be here at a certain time every week, and that obligated is a little bit of a relief for Phil and I, but also it's a little sad too, isn't it, Phil? I mean, think about it, that we don't have the outlet on a weekly basis, and guys like Mark and Chris and others that join us on a regular basis. We'll miss that. I'll miss that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's allowed us each to get closer to the Hammonds boys as well, who are both now living in Texas. Probably one could argue that's where they both probably have their highest level of comfort. They're both Texan boys who get displaced from
Yeah.
time to time. And others, I know there's a couple of folks who listen at work. They listen in their cars, like Brian does, as they're going about doing their day-to-day tasks. And
Yeah.
I am immensely thankful for the benefit of those relationships. There's been a number of individuals who's interacted with Terry and I outside the live broadcasts that have enriched my faith, my understanding, and my connection to our brethren. And I think that is, of all the benefits, the most wonderful. Just to see those quiet relationships build and strengthen each other. There's a number of young preachers that we've interacted with that I pray for regularly. I'm sure Terry does as well, that their work goes well. And we're going to continue to do some stuff that will help preachers, I'm sure. It just won't be in this format.
There's a part of this that was very healing for me, at least, because this was born out of a transitional period for you and I. I mean, we were both moving. That's kind of what reconnected us, as we were really exchanging a lot of information and trying to help each other find a new landing spot. One of us by choice, one of us not by choice. And I was the not by choice, and been pretty open about that. There's a part of this that was healing and cathartic for me in that process, to deal with some things I needed to deal with internally, but to deal with some things I think needed to be dealt with from the church standpoint as well. And so that's a blessing as well, to have that opportunity through this outlet. So it's just been a good run, man, for all of us, I hope.
You think about what your goals are when you start a project of any kind. Like, okay, maybe my project is I need to just finish something that I started a long time ago. Maybe the project is more narrow, and it's like, well, I got to make sure I complete my tasks for this week. Maybe I have to finish a 25-page paper that's due tomorrow. Maybe that's my project where I pushed it off and didn't finish it. But in the process of whatever it is, whatever your goals are, they tend to change a little bit because the work itself actually works you over some. And I would say that, at least for me, in the process of doing this, I noticed pretty clearly that my initial participation in this two-part conversations versus now is absolutely a change, and I would argue an improvement, not just technically, not just the video is better or the lighting is better, but I think for me, it's kind of helped me be more precise in this medium, to say things a little more clearly, think about it even on the fly a little bit better. I want to encourage everyone to kind of think about that same thing. Like, you engage in something for one goal, you may get some secondary benefits you didn't plan. And I think we all need that. We need continuing education of various kinds.
The evolution of not only the program, but each one is interesting. Phil became an elder during the time on the show. That shifted things a little bit. I think that's interesting as well, that we get to see that. And Phil, yes, Chris, Phil is tall. Phil's taller than I am. So you and I look up tall to Phil, and I'm tall. So
it's just proper framing, Chris. I just frame myself right in the middle of the screen and kind of tighten it up. If I stood up, which I thought about doing, and I actually filmed a few things standing up the last couple of years. It's not the right play.
Phil is tall.
Yeah, there's actually there's three standards of tall.
I love how Chris is just like sending out these random like distractions. Mike Leach, Phil's tall. What's
there's small tall, medium tall, and tall.
I'm big tall. I'm big and tall.
And I'm somewhere on the edge of small tall and medium tall.
I'm the reason there's big and tall stores. Yeah, that's me.
And so I'm definitely in the taller thing that, they didn't
Yeah.
have to bump up my height in the various rosters to make it look like it was taller than I was.
You are the reason they make 36 inseams in pants. Like that's you.
Yep. Those are mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you got any
You're the
lying
one
around,
guy.
I probably if you fit them, if you see someone in your attic somewhere, they probably fit me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Uh, Side note, I was curious, Terry. I was thinking about this recently. Outside of what we've done, as a preacher, because you tend to read in a different area than I do. What kind of things do you read or look into or try to listen from to improve your ability as a communicator? I think Terry and I could easily say that when it comes to who is the more apt at communication, public speaking, I think Terry's got a little bit of an edge there. And so I'm curious, Terry, for you, besides Toastmasters, which we both agree is excellent, is a good starting
Yeah.
spot for anybody. I think that's part of one of our goals. It's like, hey, we need to get better at stuff, not just understanding, but doing. And I was curious
Yeah.
as we close this out, um, what do you point people towards when they want to get better at that?
Well, there's probably a couple books. The first of those would be Hume's had a book that was called "Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln." I think we've referred that before
Hmm.
here and here. Um, and I think what's really neat about that book is it's not labor intensive. You can read through it pretty easily. And I think the chapters, if I remember correctly, I mean, I could roll back there and get it, but I think they're just really less than 6, 7 pages a chapter. They're very short, concise, a lot of lessons. So, Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln's the first of those. Another one is a book called The Elements of Preaching by Warren Wiersbe, which I really like that book as well. Actually, by Warren and David Wiersbe. Just pulled that up.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be man, I'm trying to think.
There's a short one by Andy Stanley that I think you've
Yeah,
mentioned before too.
yeah, I can't remember the name of that one. The other one, Maxwell's "Everybody Communicates, Few Connect," or "Everyone Communicates, Few Connect," is another good book. Um, another book that's along those lines for me and some of these books are ones that I've used within an internship program. So I've always used The Elements of Preaching. I've not used Speak Like Churchill. The Elements of Preaching is probably better there. Another one is oh man, mind blank. One of them is Leadership and Self-Deception, which is not a communication book, but it does help you get out of the way of yourself. And I'm trying to remember the other one. Anyway, Seven Habits of Effective Teaching, I think it's called, by Howard Hendricks, is another great book. And then the other one is the one that I cannot remember that Crozier and I liked a lot, and mine's blank. I'll find that one. All of those are really good books, but for different areas of communication. Public communication, though, Elements of Preaching, Speaks Like Churchill, and The Effective Habits of Effective Teaching by Hendricks, something like that. Those are the three books that I like the most. The How to Win Friends and Influence People yearly read is not a bad idea, but I will tell you, Chris, I'm a annual leadership self-deception guy. I'm an annual leadership self-deception guy. It's just for me is the book that I think helps me the most get out of my way and see people better. And so much of communication is being able to see people better. And that's, for me, is a big deal. What about you there,
Well,
Al?
yeah, for me, I'm not I don't, those are none of my yearly reads. I really only have one book that I always read every January. It is The Juggling Act, Bringing Balance to Your Faith, Family, and Work. And I'm going to I dropped in the chat for that one. I read it every year. After the first year I read it. It's an effort to prioritize the things that matter in my life. And of all of them, I can't think of any of them that has had that much of an impact on me. And I will probably place second the leadership and self-dissection text. That
Yeah.
book, probably number two for looking inwardly. And
Another book,
go ahead.
but Crucial Conversations was the other one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read that, but another
I have
highly
it. I put it in the
recommended book.
same kind of basket as leadership and self-deception.
Yeah. I think Leadership and Self-Deception is an easier read than Crucial Conversations, which makes it more effective. Crucial Conversations is kind of data-driven and very kind of intellectual approach, whereas Leadership Self-Deception, the remarkable thing about Leadership Self-Deception is it's told in the context of a story that, I mean, I think your teenagers should read Leadership and Self-Deception. I think you should make that an assignment. I have. So anyway.
Yeah. I would add this, and this is advice for all preachers, particularly, but it would fit for every person. You need to build a quiet mentoring group that includes people who share your passions, but are strong enough with who they are that they will call you out when your behavior doesn't match your profession. Like you've declared
Yeah.
something, but you don't live to that. I've got multiple group chats that I engage in that are people who are close friends, but they're very different people. And, that really is a great value to me. Not every chat is active every day, but they have really helped me have some balances to push back on my natural tendencies. Things that are ingrained in my personality that I know I want to change. Well, folks will push back. And you've got to be willing to do that, but you've got to be willing to ask for that and respond well when it happens. You can read all the books, got all the details right, but you need to have people in your life who will tell you that's a bad idea, and here's why.
Yeah.
And so for the young preachers, older preachers, start building those networks of people that you trust. And especially, you need to learn to trust people who see the world differently than you do. They may have different political perspectives, different academic perspectives, different lifestyle perspectives. You need that difference in your life to make you into what God has in store for you.
I know a book that Crozier would throw out there for us is Peacemaker. He's wanted me to read that for years, and it's kind of like Lord of the Rings at this point. It's just fun to tell him I won't do it. I'll probably crack at some point, but it's another book. There's a lot of stuff out there, but I think the main thing there is, Phil, to be kind of trying to grow yourself and try to pursue some understanding, learning along those ways, not just through books, but like you said, through friend groups and so forth. You need some people who will look at you and go, man, you've been ugly today. You need to straighten up and not be scared to say that. That's the hard part. Be prepared, though, because they may yell at you, and then you'll yell back at them and point at your camera and tell them to leave you alone. So that's how that goes.
You feel like a
It
little
might have happened
stung there,
in the
Terry.
5 minutes right before we talked. It's funny. Yeah.
A couple other things. If you have access to the internets, I do believe on February the 8th. Is it the 8th, or is it when's your night? Your Tuesday night. So you're February the 7th at the evening presentation space at Florida College. Terry Francis will be breaking the internet. And so
we're
I
still
wanted to
not
make
sure.
sure that
We're still not sure what we did to deserve this, but
I just know that Terry's in the spot that's best for him in comparison to me.
I would switch in a heartbeat with you. It's somewhat overwhelming what's going to happen. So,
let me go back to Chris's comment here, right there. I'm going to apply some insight underneath that and say that maybe my comments for that day aren't going to be the best one for that audience.
I tried to say the same thing, by the way, when I was given my sermon topic.
Yeah.
I tried to say, you don't want me to do this. And you are on the 8th.
Correct.
And you will be live streamed as well.
Yeah, but it's during the morning and I'm safe. Nobody gets up for that.
Yeah. I will tell you this. There's a little bit of for people who know my story. My dad died when I was 16, and my sister was a freshman at Florida College, and it was on Thursday night of lecture week. And so we always attribute Thursday of lecture week kind of to the anniversary, even though the date's always different. It's weird that way. But the day he actually died is February the 7th, and I'll be speaking on February the 7th. So there's a little bit of a emotional tug at that connection there. And the other thing is, I've spoken at lectures once before, and it was on February the 7th and a Thursday. And I've led singing at lectures, and it was on a Thursday. So I don't know why FC is attacking me in my feels, but it feels like there's a target. So that will be a surreal moment for me personally because of that. So, yeah.
I got a couple of things that, we're kind of winding down our non-planned conversation space.
Yep.
I do have a prayer request. There's a student at Florida College who was involved in an accident on, I believe it was Sunday night. He's a member of the soccer team. I believe he's one of their goalies. Yeah. We do not know a lot of details. I know a few more maybe than have been published, but on the bottom line, he's had a serious surgery after a serious accident, and the recovery for it will be difficult. It has the potential to shift his life in ways that that young man did not plan for. And so we need to certainly pray for them. And most folks probably who would be watching this broadcast are also connected to our friend Shane, and he posted recently about his own prayer requests for his, because Florida College's semester as the time frame has been physically rough on Senor Shane. I don't know what it is, but the last 3-4 months have just decided to overturn every single thing and throw it at him. So I would encourage you.
Life chose violence for Shane.
Yeah.
It was like life in general chose violence.
Just living Shane chose to attack him. So pray for our friend Shane, and then pray for Caden Brooks, who is the athlete there at Florida College.
And
I'm sure a lot of friends, a lot of people probably know him on campus.
My kid's part of the soccer family at large. That's a tough story going on right now. So.
Yeah. Jesse is friends with a couple of the older guys on that soccer team. And so it's kind of percolated through him to me and then some of the faculty and public announcements. Jerry, any last things for you? Last announcements? This is like the end of the ends. And so we'll take a shot at Longstreth and his perspective of the end times.
No, I'm sure I've not seen the professor presentations, but I'm sure Longstreth will sneak some eschatology in there as he always does. No, just appreciative to everybody, and we'll be around. The page will still be up. Obviously, you can get a hold of us through there, and there'll be some things we try to do along the way. But not just because you're busy, Phil. But I'll say this: we kind of looked at the catalog of work and just came to the conclusion that our original purpose has been fulfilled. And sometimes you got to know when it's time to shut things down. And the time has come, and we're okay with that. But if you're a younger preacher or an older preacher or whatever, and you have questions or you need some general encouragement or whatever it may be, just reach out to us either through the Do the Work page or through our personal pages, and we hope we can help you with that.
Yeah, it's always an option. You can directly contact us. You can probably connect to the churches that we labor with, and they'll reach out like that. That system will get to us. Happy to continue to help, answer questions, provide insight. Preaching is tremendously rewarding, but it also at times can be tremendously challenging. And I think that's how all things that are worth working towards end up being. If it's going to have some real value, then it's going to take some real work. It's just there's no getting around that reality.
Right.
All right, everybody. I don't really have anything to plug other than to encourage you to continue to pray for those who shepherd the churches you're part of. Pray for those who preach and teach, whether they are full-time or filling in. They take on a responsibility that extends beyond their own soul. They take heed to themselves and to their teaching, or they take heed to themselves and to the flock. And those challenges are substantial. And some take on both of those roles, and it can cause you to tilt and lean a little bit when the weight settles in. Have a great day, everybody. If we can help you in some way, let us know. Take care.